Hi everyone, welcome back to Box Delights. Today we're playing 1815 Scum of the Earth, the latest in All or Nothing's historic epic battle systems series of games. And today I'm showing you a pre-production copy. This is a production sample that Tristan Hall, the designer and publisher, sent me in order that I can demonstrate this for you. So there might be a few little tweaks before final production to what you see today, but it's pretty much what you're going to see for final release. There's a couple of mini expansions that I'm not showing you today. There's the Give Me Night expansion, where we replace the British army with a Prussian army. You can see him play as the Prussians. Remember, we're trying to defeat the French. The frontiers will flip as well when playing with the Prussians instead of the British. And there's also the weather deck. The weather deck gives you certain ongoing effects that persist for a fixed number of rounds. Okay, so a drought here says each player sacrifices one non-leader unit or character. It's fair, no effect. Wind, increased range of range abilities by 2. Right, so different weather effects in this shuffled deck. So that's going to have lovely little persistent effects. And you can use the weather deck in your other Hebs games as well. So for example, in 1565 St. Elmo's Pay, which takes place on a hot island of Malta, you can take out all the cold effects and play with a hot weather deck. Okay. Some of these are either hot, some of them are hot and cold, some are just cold. Okay. So that's your little mini expansions that we're not using. So what about the core game? So it's 1815. Napoleon Bonaparte is determined to rise back to power and claim all of Europe as his prize. But the British forces, led by Sir Arthur Wellesley and his Prussian ally, are amassing to stop Napoleon in his tracks at the Battle of Waterloo. As usual, this is a two-player game. So one of us is British, one of us is French. We can play solo. So I've set up here with me as the British, playing solo against the French. You could play as Napoleon and take on the British or the Prussian leader. If you're using the Prussian expansion, just flip the leader card. Okay. If you're playing as Napoleon, he'll go in row 3. This is row 1, 2, 3. But there is a flip side. So if you're playing Michel Ney, then your leader would be in row 1. Okay, so there's a flip side to the French. If you're playing against the French, a solo, then you'll always use Napoleon. In the two-player game, the French always go first, but in the solo game, we get to go first. And we can choose where to deploy our leader, again in row 1, 1, 2, 3. Let's go in this frontier, the Chateau de Hougoumont. Now, if you've not seen Hebs play before, we've got to use our hand of cards, our deck of cards, into a hand, and then deploy units, characters, leaders into these 9 spaces. Using those units and so on, we progress through a series of objectives until we get to the final objective, the Battle of Waterloo. Once we're at the Battle of Waterloo, we can start using our forces to knock down these 3 frontiers, which have health printed on them. This one's strength 11, this one's strength 9, 10. We defeat 2 frontiers to win the game. Our opponent's trying to do the same. We'll be using a combination of 2 attributes on our cards, zeal and might. If we arrive at the Battle of Waterloo before our opponent, we'll be using our zeal to win these frontiers. Once both armies have arrived at the battle, then we'll be pitting our battle stats against each other to knock down these frontiers. All right, that's the fundamentals of the game. If you lose your leader on the way or during the battle, then you also lose the game. So what's different about 1815 to the 2 that preceded it in the series? First off, we've got these extra reserve cards separated during setup. We'll look at those in a moment. The rules also allow for 4-player games, but you will need 2 copies of the game. Right, so in a four-player game, you can play 2 against 2. You can also play 3-player, 1 against 2. And also, you can play cooperatively. Again, using the 4-player rules, but this time 2 of you are combined to work cooperatively against a single AI opponent. There's also a few little nuances around the solo games that have changed. Sacrificing cards is no longer free action. Artillery ranged units take their action and tire immediately when they're played. Incidentally, this player map comes separately, and there's 2 sides to it. We've got one where the units are vertical like this, which is a great way for me to show you, and then also and also for playing solo. And then there's a horizontal setting where 2 people are facing each other across the table, if you want to play it with the orientation the other way around. Okay, right, so there we go. That's about it. And obviously we'll see some little changes on the cards, new abilities and so on. We'll have a look at these in a moment. Let's have a quick look at the French setup. We've got 2 characters in play. We've got Georges Mouton. It says, if you deal damage this round, it gains might +1. And then we've got Pierre-Louis Binet. He says, mire 1 non-leader enemy in this card's frontier. Now, obviously, these effects aren't happening because the cards are already in play. They're not played from your hand. But I want to point it out because this thing says mire 1 non-leader enemy. When a card is mired, we get these mired tokens. Mired means they're kind of bogged down, okay, in swampy ground, let's say. I mean, look at the battlefield. So they're mired. So what happens when they're mired? They're tired. Their might and zeal become 0, and its ability is considered blank until the mired token's removed. Okay, so you're effectively disabling that unit. At the start of a new round, obviously, tired units are ready to gain. And then, as an action, you can get rid of that mired token. You remove the token and then tire the unit again. So effectively, it's tough. I know mired is tough. A mired unit is out of action for 2 rounds, effectively, because you've got to take an action, tire it, and then wait for the round to end before it's ready to gain. So that's miring. I think that's enough for us to begin. We've shuffled up our deck, and we're going to draw 6 cards. We've set the game round dial to round 1. Choose a difficulty. Let's say we're going to play on hard. Okay, hard says -1. I'll explain that in a moment. We do have an opportunity to mulligan if we wish, which I am going to do. The reason why, so we'll shuffle this back in. And I'm looking for cards that provide resources if possible, like Pierre-Louis here. He has this green rosette. Okay, that provides a resource. I didn't have any, so I don't know. There's a chance you won't get any anyway, but let's try again and see if we can get some resource generating cards in our starting hand. And we'll draw 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, we didn't. There you go. All right, but we've got some 0 cost cards, so that's a little better. Okay, what about these reserves? There's 3 cards, they're all 0 cost cards. It says set up reserves, action, and each card has a specific condition to bring it into play. All right, these are tactic cards. For example, the cavalry charge for the British says, when you have 3 cavalry in one frontier, sacrifice this to destroy an opposing infantry. So if you set your 3 cavalry up here, you can defeat, just using this tactic, an enemy infantry unit. All right. Okay, infantry squares. When you have 4 infantry in a 2x2 square, sacrifice this to destroy an opposing cavalry. And then we got infantry lines. When you have 3 infantry in one row, sacrifice this to destroy 1 opposing infantry. Okay, so this gives you more reason to deploy certain cards in certain rows and columns, rows and frontiers. Okay, rows, frontiers. Same applies for the French. So they've got a cavalry charge, infantry squares, and infantry lines. So we've got to keep an eye out for when these things may trigger. Preparation phase will skip in the first round of the game because we're not there. That's kind of when you reset things, check for victory, all that kind of stuff. So we move straight into the deployment phase, starting with first player. I want to deploy cards. Remember, I need Zeal and Might to work my way through this objective deck. Okay, Zeal and Might will defeat these numbers, get me to the battle, and I can start attacking these frontiers. All right, now the first one, Escaping Exile, is automatically destroyed. This is kind of like just a little chance to get some initial troops down and think about our strategies. Okay, let's see what I've got. I think the thing to do here is get this artillery unit into play. Not ideal, but it'll do. Right, this artillery unit costs 3 resources to play. I've got no resources on the board. Each one of my cards counts as 1 resource in my hand. Right, so to play for this, I need to discard 3 cards from my hand. We'll use these 3. Okay, so these go to the discard pile, and we've paid to put this unit into play. Right, where do I want to place this? It is early doors. It is very early doors to have an artillery unit out in play. It wasn't a great hand, was it? So I'm going to put him here. I'm going to put him here. It's not great. Okay. Played, it says, gain 3 cannon tokens. So on the back of these mired are cannon tokens. Notice in the solo of this game, our turn plays as normal, though there are some effects on cards that will say solo do this, okay, as opposed to multiplayer. Was there one in here? Yeah, so for example, on Buttons the Cobman, it says, action, 1 unit gains might +2 until the end of the round, or solo, the British unit with the lowest might gains might +1. So if the foe were to play this card, they'd have to use the solo ability. If a player plays this card in a solo game, they have the choice. They could use the original or the new. Okay. Right, we've taken our turn. Turn passes now to the foe. Now the foe, this is my army deck, right? Big old deck. The foe has a much smaller deck. So that's one little change during setup. What they said is, take out all the 0 cost cards and put them in the deck. Everything else, set them aside. Okay, so I've sorted these by their resource costs. We've got the 1s and the 2s, 3s, 4s, all the way down to 5. And they're just off to the side for now. So we take the 0 cost cards and we'll give them a good old shuffle. And we'll take the French turn. Because at the start of the game, on hard, the dial says -1. They've got -1 resources to spend. However, they do have Pierre-Louis Binet, who brings 1 resource. So with -1 + 1, that takes them to a 0. So the first thing we do is we look to the reserves. Okay, can the foe activate a tactic formation ability? No, not yet. Then they'll look to their units. Have they got any cannons like us that can fire on enemy lines? Okay, does the foe have a ready artillery card? No. Okay, do they have any ranged units? No. Okay, so we'll continue down the flowchart. Draw a card from the deck. Let's see what they do. They have a unit, a French infantry division, cost of 0 resources. Now when deploying cards, you go from left to right, from rows, from the front to the back. Okay, so there's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the priority order. So they're going to want to play it up here. Okay, it doesn't have a when played effect. There it is, that's it, they're done. They turn over back to me. If I choose to pass, which I can do, then the foe gets one more turn and then the deployment phase is over. So it's up to us. We could deploy again and that will give the foe 2 more turns. We could stop right now. Or we could even just let him go and fire our cannons. So these cannons say, as an action, deal 1 damage to every enemy in this card's frontier and remove 1 cannon token. So we could do some damage here. To use an action on a card, first we tire it. Right, so the card has to be ready. It says deal 1 damage to every enemy in this card's frontier and remove a cannon token. 1, 2, 3. Now thematically, right, we're not at the battle just yet. We're on routes. It says Napoleon's currently escaping exile. Bonaparte disguised his brig in Constant to slip past the British ships and escape exile. Have it painted like the English brigs, Napoleon says. So Napoleon's off on a ship somewhere, gathering his forces. We can intercept this massing of units on their way to the Battle of Waterloo. Okay, so we're not there yet, but we can intercept them. And that's thematically what's happening here. Perhaps we've got cannons on board a ship that's seen through the disguise and attacked Napoleon's ships. All right, that's it. That's our action done. Back to the foe. So again, they're going to draw a card. And we've got a character. Charles de la Bédière. It says, okay, so he's going to go 1, 2, 3. He's going to deploy here. It says, played, champion, deal 2 damage to 1 non-leader enemy. Oh, he's going to hit our cannons. So he's going to hit our cannons for 2 damage. A little bit of 2 and 4 here on the battlefield. So yes, we intercepted, but he's got a little bit of revenge. Can I prevent that? We've got a response effect here. When a unit or character will be destroyed, cancel the effect. Solo, remove 1 damage. Okay, so we'll remove 1 damage from 1 unit. So we could play this event and remove 1 damage. But it's going to cost me 1 resource to do so. I think I'd rather pass. Keep these next turn. We'll keep the damage here. I can always do it later. Right, let's pass. So 1 more turn to the foe. So he draws. And it's got some French drummers. Inspire. Remove 1 damage from any unit or character when played. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going up here. Which one is he going to choose? It says unit or character. Leaders count as characters for all intents and purposes. So we've got 3 characters effectively. The difference between a leader and character is purely a leader is a character, except if a leader dies, then you lose the game. That's it. That's the only difference. He would remove damage from the most damaged. They're all equal. Let's take it off the leader. We'll have him. I think it's our choice. Right, and that's it. That's his end of round turn, if you like. So then we advance the round marker up to number 2. It still says -1 on the resources. And then foe passes. So that's it. That's deployment phase completed. We would move to frontier phase if either player was at the final objective and not. So now we move instead to the objective phase. Now these objectives have a target. The first one says the objective is destroyed automatically. Escaping exile. Sir Neil Campbell, charged with guarding the exiled Napoleon, sails away from the island of Elba to visit his mistress. In Campbell's absence, Napoleon escapes Elba with 1,000 men, sailing from Elba on the 26th of February 1815 and arriving in France at Gulf 1 between Cannes and Antibes on 1st of March. His trek to Paris begins. Alright, that's it then. So we've completed our first objective and Napoleon has escaped exile. Now what you'll see, the next objective, this one is called Congress of Vienna, is going to need zeal to defeat, and it's got 6 health. It needs to do 6 damage, zeal damage, right? That 3 zeal is kind of like its defense, if you like. So anything in excess of 3 that we have on our units in terms of zeal, so Wellesley's got 4 zeal, that would do 4 minus the 3 defense, 1 zeal damage. We need 6 to complete that objective, right? The next one takes might to defeat. Okay, so the series of objectives will need different skills. Right, that's the objective phase. We've both moved to objective B, and we move back to the prep phase. Preparation phase says we do a victory check. No one's won. Incidentally, it's at this point the deck size is important. If your deck runs out, you lose the game. Right? If both players happen to have empty decks at the same time, then it's determined to be a draw. And it's now that we redraw. So we've got a deck. We would discard down to 6 cards if we had more than 6 cards. Otherwise, and with this advanced drafting variant, we're going to draw 3 cards into our hand and then discard one of them. Okay, it could be one of the cards we've just drawn or one that was previously in our hand. Okay, we still don't have any cards with resources on. That's a shame. I don't think we want buttons. Let's get rid of buttons. Right, that's our hand. Everything readies. Back to the deployment phase, and I'm going to start by firing my cannons once more, because that's going to do a damage here and a damage here, and each of these units can only take 2 damage before they're killed. We've defeated these 2 units. They're actually, if destroyed, they just go to the discard pile, and it's the foe's turn, and they are going to draw. Now just note, in the multiplayer game, cards would shuffle down and fill empty rows. Okay, so everything stays as far forward as it can do. That doesn't happen in the solo game. Napoleon is going to stay back here. Okay, we've got French infantry division. 1, 2, 3 is going to go in here. Now remember too, hard says we've got -1 resource. Okay, we don't have the +1 now from Binet, but it doesn't matter, because any modifier, this is a -1 modifier, that would take a value below 0 stays at 0. So they've still got 0 resources, they can still play the French infantry. And this guy says this card gains zeal +1 if there's at least 1 more copy of this card in the battlefield. This gets the same, so each of these units is going to get zeal +1. Okay, back to me. Now I've realised my cannon should have hit Napoleon as well. So that's 1 extra damage. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, every enemy in this frontier. I'm looking for zeal. My objective needs zeal. None of my cards have got zeal. So do you know what? I'm just going to pass again. I'm just going to pass. So back to him. Oh, it's an attachment. Novices versus veterans. Attached to your highest cost unit, it says. Which is any of these 3. But attachments, the rules tell us that attachments should be played into the same frontier as our leader, if possible. There aren't any units, that's a character, there aren't any units in our leader's frontier. Otherwise it's player's choice. So we can choose where to put this guy. It's going to gain +1 might. Oh, let's just place it on this one. Yep. And it says place 3 damage tokens on this card. Let's put 3 black ones here to make it clear that these aren't actually damage. We're just going to remove 1 at the start of each round, and then the attachment goes. Okay. For as long as it's on here, it gets +1 might. So he's got +1 might, +1 zeal. That infantry division's been really bolstered. Okie doke. Now we move to the objective phase. So starting with us, we look at the Congress of Vienna. To complete this objective, you kind of got to think that, so we'll just tell you what's happening here. The Congress, within the hour of the King of Prussia, the Emperor of Austria and the Tsar of Russia all declare war, not on Louis 18th France, but on the rebel Emperor Napoleon, of course. But we've got to convince them to do so first, and it's going to take lots of zeal to do so. So if we look at our battlefield, this guy's tired, the cannon's tired, so it's not even coming into play. But so Arthur Wellesley is ready. So we look at all our ready units, and we look at their zeal. He's got 4 zeal. That's our total. We don't have any more zeal. 4 is higher than 3 by 1. Okay, so we do 1 damage to the Congress of Vienna. We've got to get 6 here before we complete this objective. Now France have done a little bit better because their objective, kill your emperor, only has 2 zeal defense, but it does need 7 damage. But because of all these little bonuses, they've got 1 zeal here, 1 here, 1 here, 0 here, and they've got 2, just 2 on Napoleon. So that's 0 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 3 higher than 2. So they're going to do 3 damage to their objective. Okay, they have done a lot better than us. Right, objective phase over. Let's move the game round up. Round 3, we start a new round. So we're going to remove one of these tokens. The novices versus veterans lasts a little longer. No victory. We draw back up, so let's draw 3 and discard 1. We'll get rid of this event. That's kind of a late game event, I think. Maybe Mulholland is also situational right now. There's our 6 cards. And let's just take a moment to admire the artwork on these cards. And this is what it's all about. It's so engaging, capturing the theme. Really well done. The movement in these images is great. There we are. There we are. And this is, well, I'm definitely going to get this one in. Let's do that. So, ready all our units. I'm going to play James English Hamilton. It's going to cost 3 resources. Should I actually save him and put this one in? I can play this one next time. Alright, this is the choice. There's so many choices in this game because I can either play this guy and use his 1 zeal as a resource, his 1 resource to play another card, or I can get this guy in and have its zeal be effective. I'm going to play this one. I'm going to play the Dragoons, I think. But then again, this one says it gains might +1 whilst in row 3. I can't put cards in row 3. I can only put them behind other cards. So maybe I will do this actually. Maybe I'll do this. Let's play this one first. Yeah, let's do this. Right, we'll get rid of those 3. It's tough because then I could have got 3 cavalry here in one frontier and done a cavalry charge. And that would have allowed me to destroy an opposing infantry. But not yet. Maybe it's too soon for a cavalry charge. Definitely. Alright. English Hamilton, he's going in here. It doesn't have a when played. It has a response effect. If destroyed, draw 1 card. They're on 0 resources still. So at this point, you see, they might have gone up to 1, but we did them some damage. So they're still on 0. And they're getting Louis Auguste Victor Beaumont, the French lieutenant. He's going in the middle here. If you dealt damage this round, this card gains might +1. They haven't. So it doesn't get the might bonus. Now, This guy doesn't have zeal, so he's not helping us, but he does have a resource on it, so I'm going to tire him and play Robert. He also doesn't have zeal, but it's just a way to get cards out. Oops, I've discarded the wrong card. That's the one I was supposed to keep. I'm going to get 2 cards next time. Yeah, this is fine. Alright, got another general. Deal 2 damage when played to 1 non-leader enemy. Let's play him. And who do I want to take out? I can't, it says non-leader, so I could take out this thing. But it's going to come back into play again. So maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I'm going to keep it. I think I'm just going to keep it here, you know. Maybe I'm just going to pass. Wow. We'll see what he does. He's got another French infantry division and it's going here. Oh no. And it gains another zeal. This is the trouble. This is the trouble. If it gets +1, yeah. This is the trouble with him having so many these infantry, is that it's just boosting his zeal, which is helping him reach Waterloo before me. So now he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeal, which is 4 more than 2. He's going to get the 7 he needs to complete this objective. Kill your emperor. Upon landing, Napoleon's troops marched 300 kilometres in 6 days, only to be intercepted by the 5th Regiment, who are sent to stop him. Napoleon approaches them. Here I am, kill your emperor if you wish. Instead, they rally to him and join the march to Paris. Wonderful. Okay, right, they're up to objective C. Us, on the other hand, we've still only got 4 zeal. Just 1 more on here. Okay, round 4. He's now on 1 resource. So for the start of this round, we're going to take the 1 cost cards, give him a shuffle up, and that becomes his deck. Alright, so that's just going into, well, if there were cards here, we'd just shuffle them in with this deck. Right, we're going to draw. We're going to draw. So we draw 3, discard 1. We've got Grouchy's Fruity Picnic. Wonderful. I like this event. Marshal Emmanuel de Grouchy was sent to scout for Prussians and simply disappeared for the day, stopping at one point to enjoy some fresh strawberries. That fruity picnic has haunted his family name ever since. It has an action on here. We can either mire an enemy in row 3, or, so we could mire Napoleon, destroy Emmanuel Marquis de Grouchy. I don't think we want that just yet. Right, that's the one I'm throwing away. But now I've got some options. Okay, so I can tire James Hamilton for his 1 resource. I need 2 resources to play this card. I can throw Count Willem Frederick as the 2nd. Play Charles Lennox. And Charles Lennox says, played, draw 1 card. Where do I want him? Here, because then I can get cavalry in row 3. Okay, draw a card. What's it going to be? Jean-Victor Rebec, but it's a cost 4 card. But it does have 1 zeal. Okay, that's it for now. French turn, and now we're going to see some higher cost cards. Yeah, this is a cost 1. He can play it. And it's an attachment. So he'll want to play it if he can in this frontier. Remember the frontier where our leader is. Attached to a character, this one, the character gains zeal +1. I mean, the French zeal is outstanding, isn't it? Do I want to pass? No, I need to get some more zeal. And I could get rid of him with this guy. If I put this one in, I'm going to get 2 zeal on there. That'll put it up to 4. Yeah, I really need to get this guy in. So I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose Bob because this card needs 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll put the dragoons in row 3, giving them might +1. I'm going to put them here. Might +1. Yeah, whilst in row 3. Now obviously, if any of these get defeated, they will shuffle forward. There he is. And now I've got the extra zeal I wanted. French are going to play another card. Oh, they've got an extra resource. That's put them up to 2. And it's a unit. It's got an action on it. Deal this card 1 damage to deal 1 damage to an enemy that's in this unit's frontier. Okay. Now the foe, this is a Bloodlust ability. Okay, let me read it to you again. Deal this card 1 damage to deal 1 damage to 1 enemy in this card's frontier. So you can use your infantry to damage another frontier. Foes don't use Bloodlust. Alright, it's in the rulebook. Foes don't use Bloodlust. That's going up here. They've gained another resource, so they're up to 2 now. They've got 1 from their dial, plus now 1 from the Young Guard. I might have to knock this thing out. But it does mean they've got enough to shuffle the 2s into their deck now. So the 2s are going in. Okay, we're going to pass. He's going to play. Oh, he's got another one. It's an attachment. Attached to Napoleon Bonaparte, he gains +1 zeal. Alright, that's the end of the round then. So objective phase. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 minus 3 puts 4 on that objective. We've got 4, 5. 5 minus 3 is 2, puts 2 on this objective. And we're moving to round 5. Let's see what we draw. So we draw 3. This heals Sir Arthur Wellesley, this event. We don't need it. We don't need it. Just before we wrap up, because I'm going to wrap up here. We've kind of seen a fair bit of the game and what's new. I've got 3 infantry in a frontier. That doesn't help me with any of my. Yeah, it was 3 cavalry in a row, or then in a frontier, or infantry in a 2x2 square, or 3 in a row. We don't have 3 in a row. If this guy dies, this infantry will move forward, and that will kick off the infantry lines tactic. So there's lots going on. I really like it. It's really cool. But we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, once I get through this, Wellington takes command is the next objective. And this was a might battle, so this one's going to use might. And I'm going to do much better here. We should race through these because I've got tons of might. Then we've got another might objective. We've got another zeal. This one needs a lot of zeal. So we've got to find a way of getting through this because it's going to be a slow creep through the ball. Then we've got a battle, the Battle of Quatre Bras. And then we're finally at Waterloo. And then once we're at Waterloo, this is where we can start doing damage to the frontiers. If you're both at Waterloo, then we'll do might damage. We'll have might combat. Will be my might versus their might. If only one of us is at Waterloo, then we'll just be using our zeal. But let's assume we're both at Waterloo. Right? We've both reached the battle, the final objective. You sum up the might of the cards in this frontier. So mine would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 might. They've got, well, this will be gone by then. So they would have 1. Well, let's say it's still there. They've got 2, none here, 4 here. That's 6. Each player, if in case they're equal, each player does 1 damage to this frontier. Okay. This has got a health of 9, by the way, right? So we're trying to reach 9. Now these two are independent of each other. If our damage reaches 9, we'll defeat the frontier. If their damage reaches 9, they defeat the frontier. If we both reach this 9 at the same time, then you kind of have a tiebreaker. Whoever's got the highest might would win the frontier. They're equal, they're both 6, yeah? So then you'd look at zeal, whoever had the highest zeal. So we've got 1, they've got 3 as it goes, all 4 with this one as well. So they would win the frontier, and that would be their victory. Remember, they're trying to win 2 out of 3 of the frontiers. Now let's assume something else happened. Let's say this attachment's gone now, right? This is gone, and it will be gone next round anyway. Now we've got 6 might, they've got, and we've got 5. We'll deal the difference in damage to that frontier. If we can build up our might, then we'll be doing more damage more quickly to these frontiers. So that's might combat. Once you're done with might combat, you'll do exactly the same with zeal. You'll compare our zeal against their zeal. The difference is it only ever does 1 damage. Whoever's got the highest zeal, doesn't matter if you're 5 higher, 10 higher, doesn't matter. They'll do 1 damage to the frontier. Okay, if they're equal, then no damage is dealt to the frontier. So the zeal, once we're both at the Battle of Waterloo, zeal is like a little bonus. Now you can see why getting to Waterloo first really helps, because when you're the only player at Waterloo, then you could be, with your higher zeal, you could be knocking down one of these frontiers while the other guy's still trying to get there to use his might against you. Such a great race. That's it then. That's the game. So let's have a look at some of these other cards. The artwork's great, right? Howitzers, destroy 1 enemy artillery. This close the gates event says mire any resource giving card. So miring, like the 95th Rifles, miring is a really good way of being able to do damage to your other player's battlefield. And this is what miring feels like. It opens up some real strategic options. You know, I could mire this thing, then suddenly they can't use their zeal, they can't use their might, they can't use their resources or their abilities. It's going to take them 2 rounds to get this thing back up again. So it really does mean there's a lot of tactical toing and froing. You think you've got cards out there, and then suddenly they're mired. Yeah. Great stuff. Love it. Well done, Tristan. There you go. Well, there's your little preview for you. And so much to enjoy in this game. 1815, Scum of the Earth. Look out for it. I hope you get your copy soon. Any questions, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.